5 and 2 to increment by 2, or you can just pass in the one argument, the 5, if you want to increment by 1. So here are the numbers we're passing in, a number and a value. So we just have to put value equals 1. So now, if a value isn't passed in, it will be set to 1 automatically. But if it is passed in, it will be set to whatever's passed in. So if we run this, we can look on the console. We have 7 for this first one and 6 for the second. The rest operator allows you to create a function that takes a variable number of arguments. The rest operator is 3 dots. So we have this function here, and taking 3 arguments, x, y, and z, and it's summing them. So at first it's converting these x, y, z into an array called args, and then it's reducing them, so it's summing them all up here, and then returning the result. So right now, if we just run this, it's going to log 6, because 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6. But we can change this to use the rest operator. So we're still going to pass in 1, 2, 3, but where it's accepted here, where we have the arguments here, x, y, z, I'm just going to put dot, dot, dot. That's the rest operator, just dot, 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 and I'm going to put args. So with this rest operator, dot, 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 it expands an already existing array, or it spreads out an array. So it takes an array and spreads it out into its individual parts. So here we have an array with some months, and the spread operator can spread this array, this R1, into the individual months instead of the actual array here. You can only use it in an argument to a function or in an array literal. So let's look at this. So right now, we're setting array 2 to equal array 1. In this example, we're not actually copying it, because if we change array 1, if we set the index of array 1 to potato and we log array 2, you'll see that index 0 is potato, even though we're logging array 2, and we only changed array 1 because these are equal. Array 2 and array 1 are the same. But what if we want array 2 to be a copy of array 1? We can use the spread operator. Now, we can't just. This is a special syntax for neatly assigning values taken directly from an object to a variable. So look at this object here. We have this object with 3 elements. We have the x, y, and z with their values, and it's all in the voxel variable. So if we wanted to take each individual element in this object and assign it to its own variable, this is the old way of doing it. So you could do voxel.x to stores x, voxel.y to stores y, voxel.z to stores z. Now with destructuring, there's a simpler and quicker way to assign variables for each element in an object. So here's the destructuring syntax right here. This time, we are creating variables a, b, and c, and assigning them to the values from the object x, y, and z. We can see we put in curly braces here, and we just say it equals the object. It equals voxel. You can read it like this. Get the field of x and copy into the value a. So get the field of x from the object, copy into the value a. Get the field of y from the object, copy into the value b. Get the field of z, copy it into the value c. So this is just a quicker way of assigning things from an object into variables. Now we're going to use destructuring to obtain the average temperature for tomorrow from the input object average temperatures. So we have average temperatures. It has today and tomorrow's temperatures. And then the average temperature is inputted into this function here. So I'm going to change this line here to use destructuring and destructure the average temperatures object here that's passed into this function. So first I'm just going to put the average temperatures variable here. And then on this side of the equal sign, I'm going to have to use the destructuring. So I'll put the curly braces, and we'll put tomorrow, and the colon, and then the other curly brace. So this is saying get the tomorrow field from the average temperatures object and assign it to the temp of tomorrow variable. So if we run this, we should see it says 79 in the console because we got the temp of tomorrow variable, we returned temp of tomorrow, and it was logged right here. So we successfully used the structuring to get the tomorrow variable out of average temperatures. We can also use destructuring assignment to assign variables from nested objects. We have this nested object right here, the local forecast, and inside we have some nested objects. So we have the forecast from today and the forecast from tomorrow. So here we have get max of tomorrow, where we're going to pass in the forecast. And here we can see the local forecast becomes the forecast variable. And we're trying to figure out the max of tomorrow. So we are going to use destructuring to figure that out. So it's going to equal forecast. And remember that is a nested object. So here, when you're destructuring, you're always going to use the curly braces. And we are first going to get tomorrow. And on the other side of the colon, we're going to have some more curly braces because it's nested. So we need to go inside of the tomorrow object, and we need the max. So we'll do max, and then we have the colon and max of tomorrow. Now we need two sets of squiggly braces here. So we have this one and this one. And so we've destructured 2 times, and the variable is max of tomorrow. So we've set the max that was inside tomorrow to max of tomorrow. So if I run this, you'll see it's 84.6. You can use destructuring assignment to assign variables from arrays. Look at this example here. So we have this array of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're assigning the variables z and x to the first 2 numbers of the array, 1 and 2. The difference between destructuring from arrays and destructuring from objects is that you cannot specify which element from the array to go into a variable. It just goes in order. However, if we wanted number 4 to go into a variable, we could just do like this. We would just add some commas. So we put a comma with nothing in it, like that, 2 commas in a row, and I'll put a y here. So now we have the first element, the second element, we skip the third element, and then we have the fourth element. So if I console.log z, x, and y, we should see 1, 2, and 4. Here's another thing you can do. You can use destructuring of arrays to switch the places of variables. Let me uncomment out these. And what I'm going to do is use destructuring to switch the places of A and B. So it'll be like this. I'll say A, B, and I'll say equals B, A. So now it's just taking this and switching the places. So instead of A being 8 and B equals 6, it's now going to log out 6 and 8. So let's see. Yep, it worked. We can use destructuring assignment with the rest operator to reassign array elements. We can see in this example, we have this array, the digits 1 through 10 in the array, and we have this remove first 2 function. We're calling it here, and we're passing in the source. That's the source array, and it becomes the list. So we want to return the array with the first 2 elements removed. So let's use the rest operator inside an array here. So we'll use the rest operator, the 3 little dots, and to remove the first 2, I just have to put 2 commas here with nothing in between them. So it's saying do nothing for the first element, do nothing for the second element, everything else put into the R variable. We could have assigned the first 2 numbers in the array to 2 other variables. So I could do A, B, and then A would be 1, B would be 2, and then R would be an array of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But right now, we just need to return the array with the first two elements missing. So if I run that, you'll see that we did that. If you look in the console, we've logged the array and the first two elements are missing. And then we have the original array down here. You can use the structuring assignment to pass an object as a function's parameter. Let me show you what I mean. Right now we have this half function and it's getting the stats argument. So the stats is being passed when it's called down here, and it's passing in this whole object, so this whole stats object. But you can see within this function, we're only using stats.max and stats.min. So instead of passing the entire stats into this function, we can just pass in what we need. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to put in some curly braces here and just put max and min. So now when stats get passed in, it's destructured into just the max and min variables, and the max and min from the function gets passed in. So now instead of doing stats.max, we can just do max, and instead of stats.min, we can do min. So if we reload that, it's going to work exactly like it did before, but now we only pass in what we need. This is commonly used with API calls. When you are getting information from an AJAX request or an API request, it will often have a lot more information than what you need, and you can use destructuring to get it down to what we actually want to work with. Template literals are a special type of string that makes creating complex strings easier. You make them with this backtick. So here's an example of a template literal right here. We have the beginning backtick and we have the ending backtick. This would be in place of using a quotation, a single or double quotation mark. A few advantages of using these template literals, these backticks instead of quotation marks, are one, you can make multi-line strings. You can see this has two lines. Here's the first line and here's the second line. And if we log the greeting, it's going to put the new line right in there. Another thing is you can add single or double quotation marks right in the string and you don't have to escape them. The third thing is you can put variables right in the string. So if we see this, see the $, and then we have these curly braces. And so anything in between these curly braces that start with the $, is JavaScript. So right now we just have this variable, person.name, which gets the name from up here. And then here we have person.age, which gets the age from right there. So it makes things easier that you can put variables right in the strings. So if we run that, you'll see, hello, my name is Zodiac Hasbro. I am 56 years old. And normally it would actually also be printed with a new line, but with this exact code editor and console, it doesn't show the new line. So there's going to be a coding challenge that we're going to do right down here. We have this make list function, and we want it to create a list based on the array that's passed in. So when we call make list, we pass in result.failure. Well, here's result. Result.failure is this array here, and we want it to return an array that looks like this. Each element in the array is a template literal that has some HTML in it, and then it also has this no var on top and line break that comes right from this array that's passed in. So let's use template literals to create that. So instead of setting this to equal null, I'm going to start this off to be an empty array. Now there's many ways to do this, but I'm going to use the classic for loop. So we'll do for, and hopefully you remember how to make a for loop. We'll do let I equal 0 while I is less than r.length. And then at the end, we will increment I. So inside this for loop, we'll do result display array.push. And then here is where I'm going to use the template literal. Put a backtick, and I'll put this HTML code here, li class equals text warning. And now this next part is going to be a variable because it changes for each array element here. So I'm going to do $sign and then the curly braces. And now I can just do R and then at index I. Now in the curly brace. And then I can just put the /li. Okay. And if we console.log this out, because we just finished that, if I do console.log result to display array, the array looks just like it's supposed to be. If you look in the console, it returns correctly. ES6 added some nice support for easily defining object literals. If we look at this function here, this function, it's an arrow function. It takes in 3 variables, name, age, and gender, and it's going to return an object. And the object is going to have a series of key value pairs where the key is the name, age, and gender, and the values are the passed in variable names, the passed in names, age, and gender. So if you look in the console, you can see what this currently does. We did the create person, we pass in a name, age, and gender, and you can see in the console the object is name and Zodiac Hasbro, age 56, gender male. So you can see there's some repetition